Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
One of the most criticised, for good reasons, in my view, this is just my view, on the internet. As you know, but obviously I'm sure some of your audience might not know, I enjoy sending off and annoying government departments with requests to information, known as the Freedom of Information Act, or the Freedom of Information Request, where you can send an email to a government department and request some information. Because we are, by law, allowed to be told information if you ask for it, because it's kept on record. However, they're a bit sneaky, and they like to add exemptions or to prevent people from seeing certain information. Now, if you cast your mind back to late last year in 2024, just before the budget was announced in 2024, Bill Gates went and met Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and the Labour government just before this was announced. And then
just before the budget was announced that was explicitly trying to destroy British farming.
Bingo.
And Bill Gates is one of the largest farm owners in America, right?
Bingo.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So when a picture emerged online of Bill Gates standing with Bill Gates standing with himself, standing with Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, obviously a lot of people online, rightly so, started pointing and saying, hang on a minute, you're now attacking farmers or the agricultural sector. You have a lot of foothold within this section in the United States. You've even done things over in Edinburgh where you've given cows genetically modified whatever. That he's very into the vaccines.
This is something that's also being done at the moment to try to prevent cows from releasing as much methane.
Yes.
And also just it always is worth repeating, the inheritance tax changes for the farmers is predicted to raise, what was it, about £520 million per year, I think was the projections. That's about a day's worth of NHS funding, and also is completely negated by the foreign aid that we send to foreign farmers across the world.
Yes, very true.
So it's just to destroy the agricultural sector.
So this meeting between Keir Starmer and Bill Gates, I thought I'd send off a request to ask for some details. So I've put here, submitted an FOI request to Keir Starmer's cabinet seeking details on any meetings or correspondence involving Bill Gates during his October 2024 visit, specifically regarding agriculture and farming. As the largest private farmland owner in the US, Gates' visit just before the UK budget announcement and amidst a sudden crackdown on farmers has raised eyebrows on social media. It's crucial to address and clarify any potential links because it was a massive thing at the time. There is my email, which you can have a little look. Pause the video if you like and just read that. Then you have to wait 20 working days for a response. And when that happened...
So they can figure out how they're going to sneak around.
How they're going to sneak around it, essentially. I got a response. This was in December the 20th, so just before Christmas. They cited Section 35 of the FOI Act, which protects the government policy-making process.
That's my favourite part about democracy, where you as a citizen don't have to be told anything about how the government comes up with its decisions. That's
exactly. So they basically turned around and said, we have to conduct a test just to make sure that if we release this information, it could affect public policy or could affect the process of making public policy.
Piss people off.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Meaning, they've inadvertently said in the first email back, disclosing what Bill Gates was talking about with Keir Starmer
is related to public policy somehow.
And the process of it. So I waited another 20 working days and received another delay.
Okay.
So I was informed that obviously they invoked Section 35, but in response, obviously I sent a follow-up emphasising why this is a crucial public interest issue because they planned on conducting a test, and I said, you have to do the whole, the public deserves transparency, and you have to make the case, you have to frame it like that. But they said, we need some extra time for this one. because we're still considering this as a public interest.
I hope to let you have a response by the 20th of February, so that's tomorrow.
That is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I still haven't received anything as of yet.
Wait until your next 20 working day delay. That's what I'm expecting you'll get tomorrow.
Yes.
If you get anything else, because if they just keep invoking that part of the act, then they can push it back forever and nobody gets any information.
Yeah.
Although, of course, what we can do is we can infer what they're hiding from us.
Exactly. And you can do a thing called an internal review. So when you send off a request, and they always put it in the black and white at the bottom, if you're unhappy with this request, please send a complaint or whatever. And usually it just goes to some random bloke's desk and they have a look and go, oh. But if you go through a particular channel, you can request it goes through it almost like a court system, and they can review it and they can make sure that actually, yes, we are following guidelines or we're not, or we can show you this part of information or we can't. What I find interesting is that many people, especially on the left of politics, were complaining a lot about Elon Musk and his involvement with Reform UK. Whether you like them or not, doesn't matter for this argument. And I remember someone like Stadlen had said, whatever our politics, surely we can all agree that British democracy should not be for sale to foreign billionaires. And then I believe, pointed out, well, where were you about Soros, Bill Gates, Larry Fink, Klaus Schwab, Rockefeller Foundation, Xi Jinping? Nothing. Silence. And I seem to see this a lot.
It all depends. Well, I mean, those guys, yeah, they're interfering, but they're interfering for the interests of what Matt Stadlen likes.
Yes, and everything else. But then I wanted to ask, well, why is it that so many people online and in communities across, I would like to think, the political spectrum, but it's mostly on the right usually, that are very, very critical of Bill Gates. Some on the left, might I say, but
those would
not
have
a lot.
To be properly principled leftists. They still exist.
They still exist somewhere, indeed. But why is it that people are very skeptical of Bill Gates, and why is it that Bill Gates is so hated? Well, first of all, people don't like the idea of a foreigner coming over and then interfering with policy making for a start. Especially, Britain is almost like a vassal state of America at this point.
Oh, it is.
It is, yes.
It is.
And seeing Bill Gates come over with knowing that he has invested in 250,000 acres of farms and has pushed out small farming businesses within the United States, people are saying, yeah, we don't want that happening over here. So that's very annoying. But if you roll the clock back, there's other things. He's made lots of obviously investment in, quote, public health. And there was a particular thing in this article that I wanted to go through. It was somewhere down here. So he works on following areas such as discovery and translational sciences, enteric and diarrheal diseases. Didn't know that. HIV, malaria, neglected tropical diseases, pneumonia, tuberculosis, all of these. But
basically trying to fix Africa.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's also into genetically modified crops.
Mm. But
his preaching of climate change, he also invests in fossil fuels at the same time. And you find this with people like John Kerry, who would say, I'm all for the climate, but then go around in private jets, the classic argument.
Well, it's the same argument that's made against regulatory capture, against regulations that should be trying to regulate monopolies.
Sure.
For instance, if you make sure that you are on the board of the regulators or you have people on the inside, then you can control your competition. Mm-hmm. Because the regulations go against them, you can cover the costs. Same with this, you can cover the costs of all of the extra taxes and barriers that get put in the way of fossil fuels. It just means that you've got no competition because they can't do it.
Exactly. So people, rightly so, and even I think I read The Guardian, even though, and we will get to this in a bit about him and The Guardian and his involvement with them, they even said, well, hang on a minute, you're investing in fossil fuels, but whilst preaching about the climate. Very, very strange. Speaking of that, he's obviously invested as well, if you can see, into the BBC.
Oh, would this be for the BBC? Was it the World the World journalism? Because I can see this was the US aid, where they got about $2.5 million dollars or pounds. Sorry, where was the Bill Gates involved in it? Oh yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Our significant donors include UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, several UN agencies, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, this is for BBC Media Action and BBC World Services, which seems to be a funnel for money to be sent to independent journalists across the world. But the fact of the matter is, as with everything else being funded by USAID in the journalistic sphere, if you are being funded by a foreign government, and the BBC is a government organ, then you're not independent anymore. I agree. You are funded by foreign interests.
Yeah, indeed. Same with The Guardian. This is on his website, gatesfoundation.org, to support The Guardian and produce regular reporting on global health and development topics in its global development section. And I believe the amount there is nearly 3.5 million.
Yep.
It's quite substantial. And that was for 36 months in September 2020. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. He has done some very strange things, however. I think. Do you remember the time?
I don't think I've heard of this.
No.
He drank shit water.
Yes. This was 10 years ago, might I add? Or well, it says 20. Yeah. 10 years ago, it's 2015. Of course it is.
10 years
That's
ago.
very weird.
I know, I don't want to think that it was 10
yeah,
years ago.
That's very strange.
COVID was 5 years ago almost. Yeah, it's disturbing.
So if we could play the clip, it's towards sort of halfway.
I mean, it's only 30 seconds.
It's only 30 seconds, so we can watch that.
Bill Gates showing the highest level of confidence in a new technology that turns waste, human waste, into drinking water. I am not kidding about this. He tweeted, "From your toilet to my glass, I got to taste water made from human waste." Yeah, it's worse than you think. Check out the highlights from the attached video.
The Omni processor turns sewer sludge, which is kind of nasty, into clean drinking water, electricity, and ash.
It's water. Yeah, I think that was about 10 feet away from the human waste and sludge.
Would you drink
right into the glass.
Would you drink it?
Yeah,
Would you drink sludge?
No.
No?
No, I don't like this constant humiliation that we're supposed to go through to turn into bug men. I don't want to. I will not drink the shit water. I will not eat the bugs. I will not live in the pod. You can't make me.
Obviously, it's important to add there is a lot that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has funded in very wacky projects. So I'm only condensing it. So because we'd be here for several hours to go through everything that Bill Gates done. It's only good to go through the highlights. But this one is a very, very interesting one, and it's caused a lot of controversy, and it's another subject that I am fascinated by and enjoy. I say enjoy. I don't enjoy it. It shouldn't be a thing.
Funding solar geoengineering research. Is he going to do the Mr. Burns? Is he going to put up a big sun visor to block the sun out?
Shall we roll the clip?
Oh, God, go on.
Basically affects the whole planet with one project. So that is not necessarily a situation that has a lot of profit opportunity, right? Because there's not going to be a lot of different people that can do it and compete in a marketplace.
Bill Gates is among a dozen individual donors and 14 foundations backing the first stratospheric solar geoengineering experiment out of Harvard. It's called Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, or SCOPEX. A high-altitude balloon will lift instruments about 20 kilometers into the stratosphere, where it will release less than 2 kilograms of different naturally occurring chemicals, like calcium carbonate and sulfates, and then measure the change in atmospheric chemistry and light scattering. The Harvard group that runs ScopeX and other experiments has raised more than $16 million, more than double any other solar geoengineering effort. And annual global funding has gone up from $1 million in 2008 to $8 million in 2018, with the majority of that funding coming from the US. The first phase of ScopeX will cost around $3 million, with much more needed for wider research on solar geoengineering. To this point, stratosphere injections have only been tested with climate modeling. In the UK, a government-funded solar radiation management test called SPICE was cancelled in 2012 because of issues with patents.
So, yes, funding solar geoengineering projects as well. There is another part in that video to which I didn't get the timestamp for, so I do apologise. But it's a very famous clip that a lot of people have posted as well, where he talks about sun dimming, and it's the idea of is flying aircraft up into the air and dropping particular chemicals to block out the sun.
Well, that's just interesting, isn't it?
Indeed.
I thought chemtrails and stuff like that supposed to be
I thought it was a conspiracy theory. Yeah, interesting. Any thoughts so far?
My main thought is that somebody like Bill Gates has never done anything to be able to earn the kind of respect or power that he holds. A man like Bill Gates has made a lot of money through technology, yes, but that doesn't mean that he should have such control over people. He has neither the mandate of the people or the mandate of heaven. And frankly, he it just seems a bit evil. I think one of the reasons that people dislike him, let me just go back to, not this one, this one. One of the reasons that people don't trust him very much is he just looks weird. And look at that, he looks creepy. He looks like what you would expect a lizard person to look like. And so when you hear that this guy is, what's this guy do? Does he, like, I don't know, follow people in parks at night or something? No, he's planning to block out the sun. Oh, okay, so he can spend more time in the dark following people in parks. Okay, all right. No, not that I think that he does that. Just he looks like somebody who would do that.
Right, indeed. There's a lot of controversy indeed in terms of projects. It's very interesting as well. You mentioned about all things bugs or bug related. Well, he has, of course, contributed to that too, despite it being told that it was a kind of conspiracy theory here. I don't know who these guys are. I was reading this article this morning. I thought it was very funnily worded, calling the Bill Gates bug-eating conspiracy, and tried to explain it. That's obviously vile.
Well, I mean, if it is a concentrated effort by people with a lot of money to make sure that we can engineer food that is made out of bugs that people will be basically forced to eat, that is a conspiracy. That is a conspiracy. It's just one that's true.
Yeah. Well, you should listen to how this is worded. The history of bug eating. The culinary tradition of eating insects is not new. Oh, okay. Humans have eaten bugs for millennia, tracing back to prehistoric times when insects were a common part of diets worldwide. So we should just return to that.
Return to monkey.
Return to prehistoric foods.
Return to monkey. Okay, you're starting to get me on board now.
Early humans foraged for bugs, and some indigenous cultures consumed them as a protein source. Ancient Greeks and Romans savoured locusts, whilst Asia, edible insects became delicacies, where they remain so today. Colonization. Indeed, and industrialization led to a decline in bug consumption in some societies.
Branding it taboo and culturally gross, because it is
gross. Because it is gross.
Because it's disgusting. Just splice in the footage of Carl Pilkington at the China market watching people eat bugs while he's chowing down on his Monster Munch. That's me. I've got my pack of Monster Munch. I don't want any of the bugs. Keep that to yourself, buddy.
But despite it being a conspiracy theory, yes, he has done it as far back as May 2012, and so on and so forth.
All Things Bugs, LLC, including you. You're the bug. To Bill Gates, at least.
Indeed. And that's on the gatesfoundation.org. The other one as well, and this is the spicy one, so I don't want to get in trouble for talking about this one, but his... association with none other than Jeffrey Epstein, and was asked about this as well. There was a video of him being questioned on this by a mainstream reporter. So of course we could, look at that as well, which is here, and see what he has to say about that.
I'm going to play this, Samson. Thank you.
was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful. I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
Nice and evasive.
Body language.
Very
wasn't
shifty.
Great. Wasn't great. But there are a list of reasons to why people are very much skeptical of Bill Gates and criticize him a lot online. And this Freedom of Information request being delayed so far down the line, and we will find out tomorrow, the 20th of February, whether or not it's delayed again, whether I actually will find or we can find some information that we can talk about on what they discussed during their meeting, or are they going to kick the can down the road again and delay it again and again and again until I'm there pulling my hair out trying to figure out a way to get around it?
My predictions are not sunny.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.